Race has no root in biology, but the impacts of race are still felt.
You think America's a racist country?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that black people have more rights today. Black people don't have anywhere near the right to life that they had before Roe v. Wade, which is why more black babies are born in the womb in New York City are born.
I gotta teach you
black people are
about some like racial issues.
Can a man become a woman?
This isn't an ultrasound. No, this is a 9-week fetus in a petri dish.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Dr. Nasser Sheikh Show. Welcome one and all. And what's on tap for today? Well, we have got a great debate series, folks. It's my reaction video to the debate by the Daily Wire with Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire versus Joshua Joseph, a leftist viral BLM activist. That's right, folks. And the first part of this debate is going to be centered on the topic, what is an abortion? That's right, folks. What is an abortion? So let's get to that part one of this video right now.
Because I was talking to another young liberal lady, and I made the claim that when you have sex with somebody, you are consenting to the possibility of pregnancy. And you found this very objectionable.
No.
That
was
you agree with that?
No, yeah, I do agree that you're consenting to the possibility of pregnancy, but you said you're consenting to the possibility of pregnancy, and she agreed, and you said, well, if it's consent to the possibility, then it is consent to pregnancy. That's what I took the issue with, because I don't believe in any other scenario do we hold the concept of consenting to an action means that you're consenting to every feasible outcome of that action.
But the possibility of pregnancy, the only end of that is pregnancy. I'm not saying the possibility of pregnancy or this or that or some other thing. I'm saying the possibility that this action will result in a pregnancy would, I don't understand what the distinction would be.
What do you mean only end of that?
Just the term possibility means that something could happen.
So there's
what else
multiple
could it
possible
be?
outcomes of sex, right? So one thing that I like to pull from is not just the pregnancy aspect, because again, I mentioned to you in one of our videos going back and forth that humans have sex for multiple reasons, and you took a little issue because you said, well, there's supposed to only be one reason. But
No, there are multiple reasons, but some reasons are more important than others.
yeah, and I would say that, especially if we're looking at what sex is naturally ordered to, sure, producing offspring is one of them, but also communication, relationship bonding, those are all very critical things that also take part in a relationship. You can even have sex with a person and not further that relationship. There are various things that take place.
Well, you'll further some sort of relationship.
You'll further a relationship, but that if you want to do hookups or if you wanted to do like a one-night stand or whatever, it could take place, but you don't need to furtherly engage with that person. So that
Now, what if you have the hookup or the one-night stand, and maybe you're even using artificial contraception, but it doesn't work or it breaks, and the girl gets pregnant? Well, then you're not going to have anything to do with her? That relationship's not going to go any further?
Well, no, I think you could have nothing to do with somebody regardless of whether or not they get pregnant.
But I'm asking in this specific
In this specific instance, then it depends on what the two people want. If you guys like each other enough, you want to stay together, I'm not saying that you necessarily need to be like, kick them to the curb. I don't even know where that necessarily comes from. But again, sex has multiple different possibilities. It could be that someone gets pregnant. After that point, you want to still further the relationship. You could say you don't want to further the relationship. That's not necessarily what the point is. The point
But
is
if you
that
don't further the relationship, then you would be abandoning your child and the woman that you've left.
I'm going to take issue with that a little bit because I feel like there's this concept of an intuition pump, right? So if we use the term child, intuition pump.
Did you hear that wording, folks? Even Michael had to ask him again, what was he talking about? He said an intuition pump. Folks, I'm telling you, leftists, progressives, the Democrats, they are so good at utilizing words, at the linguistic lingo that these guys utilize to put out their message. They are so good at it. It is an absolute unbelievable, niche that the leftists and progressives have carved out for themselves, using adjectives and modifiers and emotions to get their point across. A lot of times, we're out there stuck. We're trying to get out policies. We're using mathematics. We're giving out numbers. That's so dry. It's just boring. But here you go, intuition pump. What does it mean? Anything that you want it to. You know what? Oh, pregnancy. We're talking about, whether or not having sex leads to pregnancy. Not necessarily. It may or may not. Okay, all right. But then if you do get pregnant, does that necessarily lead to having a baby? Oh, maybe. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe not. How do you know what's going to happen? How do you know what they're going to decide? I mean, all these things, this mental gymnastics that are being tossed around. I mean, it's unbelievable in terms of how they utilize these words and phrases. After a while, and I'm sure with, Joshua over here, you're going to need a freaking chiropractor sometimes when you talk to leftists and progressives. Because you've got to go to your chiropractor the next day to unbend and untwist everything that these guys threw out at you. It's absolutely unbelievable. Anyways, let's continue with this discussion.
Into words that don't necessarily need them in a given scenario. So, for example, if you're to say a child, right? Me and you aren't dumb. When we colloquially use the term child, we're referring to birthed people who are already born.
No, I refer to offspring.
Yeah, offspring. I mean, see, I can understand why you can use the term offspring, right? Because you are still referring to offspring when you say the word child. But if I say child or kid or even baby, those all three things are connotated of people who are born. And those are actually definitions.
No, I don't think so. I mean, for instance, when my wife first became pregnant with our first child, before the baby was born, people would ask, oh, how's the baby doing? I would think about my future son, my child. I'd get the bedroom ready. We'd start buying clothing. So I certainly, when I would refer to my child, I would be referring.
Well, so what else would it be? Here we go again, folks, with the linguistic lingo. What else are you going to refer to other than a baby? You're going to go up to somebody and say, oh, by the way, it looks like, you're expecting. Are you having a baby? What are you having? What else would it be? You're not saying, oh, how's your zygote doing? Oh, by the way, honey, how's that embryo doing? Oh, you know what, that clump of cells that we were talking about? How far along are we? Are we 7 weeks along with that clump of cells? Are we talking about a zygote, an embryo? The left likes to use words, as I talked about, with linguistic lingo. They like to use words that will dehumanize humans. They're going to dehumanize babies. They're going to dehumanize children. They want to dehumanize also adults. They dehumanize men. They dehumanize women. Anything in the human race, the left, the progressives, the liberals, they want to dehumanize it, because the more you can dehumanize a human being, the less emotional attachment you're going to put on that. That's exactly what happens, folks. Is there more emotional attachment to a baby or a child? Or do you have more emotional attachment to a cluster of cells, a zygote, an embryo, whatever it is you want to say other than what it actually is, a baby or a child? That's how they start to win at the linguistics game, by appealing to the emotional senses of people. And what happens a lot of times is, when you hit on emotion, your thinking becomes kind of foggy, because you're basically attached more to the emotional side than reasoning and logic. Anyways, let's continue.
To it as a child?
Because it's my child.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but also you were under the impression that that child was going to be born, correct? When people ask, how's the baby doing? And that also works the other way, because a lot of times you can say it's impolite to ask necessarily if you don't know someone's pregnant.
Really? We don't want to call someone fat.
Yeah, you don't want to call someone fat, but you also don't want to assume that either everything is just peachy or that they want to keep that pregnancy.
Well, I want to assume that someone is not going to murder her child. I do make
Well,
that.
then you're factually wrong on that, because murder is a specific legal definition. You could say it should be murder, but if you're going to assume that they're going to murder their child, that is assuming that the killing is unlawful. And that's also assuming that abortion is...
It is unlawful, because it is not merely...
moral law, maybe, but not law. I don't know what law you're talking about, which
I'm talking about
abortion is.
the natural law and the moral law from which we derive the civil and
What do you
positive
mean,
law.
natural law and moral law?
I mean laws that are true for all people at all times. So we have certain civil laws and positive laws. The state of Louisiana might have a different kind of traffic law than the state of New York. But there are certain laws, like it is wrong to commit murder, that are true for all people at all times.
Yes.
And so the way that we get our civil law and our positive law is in part by deducing certain conclusions from the moral and natural.
Yeah, but you're also shoehorning in the legal term while trying to define why it's wrong for like everybody.
Well, no,
So
murder has been understood to be wrong since.
Yeah, no, what I mean by
civil
that
law
is that the term murder is the unlawful killing of a person, right? But if someone kills somebody in self-defense, that's not an unlawful killing. It's still
wouldn't be murder.
killing.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be murder, right? So you can't say that necessarily like, oh, it is murder when it isn't, because the killing in this instance, the termination of the pregnancy, which would entail the death of the fetus, is lawful, so it's not an unlawful killing.
No, it's not.
Oh, because you believe that it shouldn't be lawful, or you believe
Well, right,
that
we have a difference of opinion here. You say that it is lawful.
No,
I'm saying
that's
it
the
is
fact.
not
That's
lawful.
the reality opinion, though.
Well, no, that's
that's a fact. That's not even an opinion. It is lawful.
What do you think an opinion is?
Opinion is something that's subjective, up to your interpretation. So on the books, the law is that abortion is not murder. So if you say abortion is murder, you are factually incorrect.
So before we get back to abortion for a second, I think you're mistaken about the meaning of the word opinion, because you seem to be conflating an opinion with a preference. Do you understand the distinction between the two?
There is a distinction between the two, but that's not the connotation which I was using.
Well, you were saying an opinion is subjective, right? In the way that a preference is subjective. I like vanilla more than chocolate. That would be a preference. That's not what an opinion is. An opinion is when you make a statement of fact from your perspective. So here's how I would show you an example.
That gets into the whole like alternative fact realm. You can make a proclamation about what you perceive the world around you to be, and that can be your opinion, but there's a specific distinction between opinion and a fact. Now you can say that like a preference and an opinion are similar in that they're both subjective. That doesn't mean that.
I'm going to stop it right here, basically, because they're getting into now a different topic. They're getting into the thing in terms of what is it, opinion, preference, alternative facts, or whatever. But I just want to point out, again, here you go. This is what I was talking about, how the left likes to utilize different linguistic. They like to use arguments, right? Now, I think Michael is sort of treading a little bit onto quicksand here, because he was basically saying, with his terminology, was that an opinion can be a statement of fact that a person is thinking that he's stating. And Joshua is countering with the fact that saying those are like alternative facts, because you can have an opinion, but that opinion could be right, it could be wrong. You could have an opinion, it could be true, it could be false. When you make a statement, when you make an opinion, we basically reason to see what is that statement or that, what you're saying, what does it actually mean? What is the connotation behind it? And then we use everything that we basically accumulated in our knowledge to say, hey, that statement that you're making or that opinion that you're making, it has a factual basis. Or that opinion that you're making does not have a factual basis. Anyways, folks, we'll continue this. We really appreciate you taking time to watch it. This was part 1 of the debate. We've got so many parts that are coming up. Just take a look for them. You'll see the links right up here. And that's it for part 1. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.